Vampire sex books are not really in my niche, but I have to tell you about this one by Octavia Butler. I'm not a scholar of Butler. I've only read these 4 books. This one is a time-traveling slavery book. This one is a dystopian sci-fi future thriller that I describe as if Walking Dead had a baby with The Wire. And this one's not just a vampire sex book, it's also the last book that she's ever written. It was intended to be a series, and then she unfortunately died before she was able to finish it. If you take nothing else away from my analysis of it, based on what I've read so far, the answer to the world is create community even though it feels like the apocalypse. There's a scene on page 75 of Parable of the Talents where the main character encounters a character named Dan who's lost every member of his family, and Lauren offers to help him. Says if we need to snatch them, we will, and if we need to, we'll buy them from the people that took them. It's an apocalypse, post-apocalypse world, and Dan is super taken aback and stares at them and says, why? Why would you do that? Why would you help me? A lot of Butler's writing is so elegant that quoting it without context is a disservice to it. Part of what she says, though, is that we've all lost people, and when we can save a life, we do. And when it feels like, or in the case of these fictional books, when the world is literally falling apart around you, building community is a selfless act that is also an act of survival. But as a Black woman author, Butler is not naive to the dark realities of the world. All 4 of these books feature horrifying imagery of things that happen to the characters that reflect historical and present realities of things that happen to women and marginalized classes in this world. She is not some kind of kumbaya idealist, but she recognizes that building community is one part of the strategy, and making sure you have ammunition and a willingness to fire when necessary is the other. Which is where the idea of vampirism, vampires, becomes very interesting in the analysis of Octavia's final book. A vampire cannot survive without extracting life from the people around her. It's the first line she says, I awoke to darkness, I was hungry. There are vampires in this book that just eat whoever they want and don't think about it. And there's vampires that engage in ethical community building and ethical vampirism, and they only extract as much blood from people as they can. Their familiars are not servants or slaves, but they treat them as equals. But even though they treat them as equals, they still have power over them, and that is part of why this book is insanely interesting. I don't want to spoil anything, but you cannot go wrong with Octavia Butler. It is community building in the apocalypse that is not naive to the reality of human power dynamics. There's so much more to talk about in these books that I can put in 3 minutes. I'll put them in my affiliate reading list that helps the channel because I'm not naive to the power dynamics of content creation in this apocalyptic world in which we live. Thanks for watching. I'm Charlie. This is Sense to me, and happy reading.